Hey guys, my name is Pastor Peter. I am a pastor in the Northeast. That means the states of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Right in that area, those are the places that I normally pastor. And I have a story for you guys today. And also, I just want to let you guys know, first and foremost, you have one of the best, most talented, most awesome pastors that anyone could ever hope to have. Pastor Ben Amoa is like the coolest guy and has become a really good friend of mine during the pandemic especially. And speaking of connecting with people and being connected with like Pastor Ben, have you ever had a hard time being connected with God? I do, all the time, and I'm a pastor. So that's like, whoa, wait, aren't you supposed to be connected really well with God? And you know, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's really hard. And some of the times that I can remember specifically where I connect really well with God are when I'm helping people. So that's kind of what I want to share with you today, is a story of the first time that I ever remember helping someone, and kind of how that changed the way that I look at helping people in general, and also sharing the story of one of my heroes that always taught me to give and share, and how that helps me connect with God. So let's get to the story. When I was about 5 years old, my dad decided to take me with him on a trip to go visit my aunt in Mexico. And we were going on this trip specifically to try and help my aunt because she was living in poverty, which means she was really poor, and she was living in a place that wasn't so nice. There wasn't wood on the ground, there wasn't tile on the ground, it was dirt. And so when she would sweep in her house, she would just be sweeping out dirt from on top of more dirt, you know? Keeping the dirt as clean as she could, but it's still dirty because it's dirt, right? Anyways, so we went to visit my aunt, and we parked our car outside of where my aunt's house was, and my dad said, Peter, you have to stay in the car because the place that we're at right now, the neighborhood and the surrounding area is not very safe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave the window down a little bit, I'm gonna lock the door, and I'm gonna be right here. I'm gonna be about 10 feet away from you, but I'm gonna be inside the house. If anything happens, just scream my name, scream Dad, and I'll come right back. And I was like, okay, Dad, no problem. So I went and sat in the passenger seat of the car, just waiting for my dad to come back from whatever he was doing. I don't remember specifically what my dad was bringing to help my aunt. And the only reason I know that he went to help my aunt is because he recently kind of reminded me of what he was doing there and why we were in that place in the first place. So I remember that my dad went in, and it took him a long time to come out. It took him maybe like 30, 40 minutes, which for me as 5 years old probably felt like hours, you know, maybe years, maybe even a millennium. I was in there for so long, and back then we didn't have smartphones. I was like literally twiddling my thumbs, you know. I was just in the car, just like, wow, this is something. Just waiting there for my dad to come back, super bored, you know. And finally he came back, and my dad looked kind of like upset. Normally my dad is like this big bubbly guy who's just always excited about everything, but this time he came back and he looked kind of upset. And that was confusing to me, but I remember thinking while I was in the car that, you know, my aunt is really poor. Maybe she could use some extra help. My dad had given me $5. I think it was the day before. He said, Peter, tomorrow we're going to New Mexico. Here's your allowance, and you can use that to buy yourself a little toy or something else, like a little knickknack from Mexico on our way back. And I was like, okay, thanks, Dad. And I had that money in my wallet and thought, you know what? Maybe I don't need more stuff. Maybe I could just give the money to someone who really needs it. My aunt, especially someone who's part of my family, I can share with them. So when my dad got back in the car, I got my $5. I was like, Dad, can we give this to my tia Alma? And tia is how you say aunt in Spanish. So I said, can we give this to my tia Alma? And my dad looked at me, and he had the biggest smile on his face, and he gave me a hug. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's just $5, not a big deal, Dad. And like, probably, I don't know what I was thinking. I was 5 years old. So I gave the $5 to my dad. My dad grabbed the $5 and he went back in. My dad came back out and he was crying. It took him a little bit longer than I thought to go back in and out, but it seemed like he was moving something or doing something. I don't know. I don't really remember again. And he came back out and he was crying. And he looked at me and he said something like, thank you, Peter. And then we left. Now, I didn't know some of the things that were happening in the background. I didn't know how terrible things were for my aunt, and I didn't know what my dad was doing specifically. But now I remember. Why? Because my dad told me. So my dad told me when he went there, my aunt actually started yelling at him and screaming at him, "Get out of my house. I don't want your help." Because my aunt was proud. Even though she was poor, she was very proud and I guess I'm saying proud in the sense that she was not humble. She didn't want help from anybody else. She wanted to do it herself, even though she was struggling, even though these things could help her the most ever, even though this connection with her family could help her so much, she still, for some reason, didn't want the help. But when my dad came back to the car and he saw the $5 that I had, he went back in and he said to my aunt, "Hey, you see your nephew out there? He's the one that's sending you these $5. He doesn't know anything about you, really. He doesn't know that you're struggling. He doesn't know that you screamed at me. All he wants is to give you his $5. And I was in the window probably like, like waving at her or something like that, or because I could see through the window. But my dad told her that, and she started crying. And after she got those $5 from my dad, she accepted everything else that my dad had brought that day to give to her. It was crazy. So my aunt's mind was changed because of her connection. And so today I'm trying to communicate this to you guys. When you help people, it's something different. Not only do you feel good, but you're actually doing exactly what God wants you to do. And furthermore, you are building a relationship with God. Because when you do what God says and when you do what God wills and wants for your life, He's only willing or wanting the best things for you. And so I want to use an example from my life that may be different than yours, completely different. And I want to say that connecting with God is easy for me when I'm helping people. I didn't know I did it when I was younger, but now when I talk with my dad and my dad told me the story, I'm like, wow, that made a big difference and I didn't even know. All I did was share. I hope you guys have a great time, rest of the time with this week of worship, and say hi to Pastor Ben for me, okay?